What's going on, guys? Today we're going to cover how to fight a fish on a fly rod. Alright, here are just a few tips and tricks for new novice fly anglers how to use a fly rod which generally is longer than 8.5 foot. Today I'm going to be using a 7.5 foot 3-weight because I'm indoors a little bit, and that way it'll save some space and I'll still be able to get the message across to you. First and foremost, I do want to say that there are many techniques and things that are similar to regular spin fishing, okay, or bait casting or other types of fishing that we normally see. We do want to keep constant tension on the fish, alright, as well as, in this case, most of the bend of the rod towards the mid, belly, and end. We want a good consistent flex, okay? Oftentimes what you see is people will break rods because there's too much flex at the tip, alright? So first and foremost, after we set the hook, generally with a nice firm but not overly powered lift up on the rod, alright? Or we can also strip in line quickly to set the hook as well, depending on your situation. Now, normally for a small fish, we would fight the fish without the reel at all. Alright, so the first thing we would do is, if I notice that I've hooked the fish, and I'm going to let myself out some slack line here. I've hooked the fish, I know I've got one on, alright, I feel the tug at the end, alright, I'm going to start making sure that first of all I have my finger on the line, alright? That's going to be our pinch point that prevents line from going out or in without our control. Now the first thing we're going to do is if I know that the fish, I need to put extra tension on the rod because it's, well, slack right now, I'm going to strip in line until I get tension on the rod, okay? That's going to prevent, the tension is going to prevent them from spinning the hook, as well as it's going to give us momentum and power to try and lead the fish one way or another back towards us. So on a small fish, we rarely even use the reel itself to create any drag. So I'm gonna play the fish. I'm gonna play the fish, and I'm gonna strip in line when I feel like the fish is either staying in one location, coming towards me, or I need to make it go one way or the other. The one thing you don't want to do is if the fish wants to run on you, if you're using light tackle, you don't want to go ahead and force the fish one way, because then you're gonna A, break the line, or the leader rather. B, you're going to cause ripping in the fish, because remember, trout or other certain fish have very sensitive mouths, okay? And another thing is that's going to allow you to have a better feel for what the fish is doing. Now, if we're fighting a bigger fish, say we've got the fish, a direct connection to the line itself, and we have some drag set on our reel, alright, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set the hook with a pinched finger, and then I'm going to feel it out. If the fish wants to run, you let them take line. But if the fish feels like it's going one way or the other, and you feel like it's a lot of feel, guys, and you feel like you can get a little bit of pull on the fish without horsing it, then go ahead and reel as you fight one way or the other. Now, on a lot of trout, like rainbow or steelhead, which are basically rainbow, just, sea run or Great Lake run, they're going to have a tendency to jump on you. Now, just like when we know about bass fishing or other things like that, other fish, if the fish jumps, drop your line, okay? Drop your line. That prevents the fish from shaking and spinning because it creates slack, as well as, hypothetically, the fish is in the air and you've got a lot of tension on the rod, it's going to pull the fish one way or the other, and it's going to then create slack again. The key here, if you notice, alright, if you listen carefully, is we want tension on the fish. It's going to wear them out. Now, what happens if we're fighting a big fish, we want tension on the rod, and we have slack behind our hand up to this point, up to the reel? Well, there's a couple different things we can do depending on your reel, alright? You can either reel really quickly, you could either let the fish take a little bit until you get to your reel, or what I like to do, depending on how much time I have, is if I've got a fish on, I will spin my reel, make sure that it's collected the line properly, and then I'll let the reel take over, alright? Generally, when you set the reel, you want to have it set to the point where it'll tire the fish, but it won't freeze or seize on you, because if you catch a small fish, it's not going to have enough power. So rule of thumb, depending on the fish, If your reel is a nice reel, try halfway, pull it out yourself. If you feel like it's too easy, instead a little more. I know it's a pretty simple and easy thing to say, but that's the best way I can give you advice until you get a good feel on your reel, okay? Now, say you've got the fish close, the fish is within 10 feet, and you've got your net out. Now, what we can do to prevent your rod from breaking, because this is where most rods break, okay? Most of the time what guys will do is they'll lift their hands high, and it'll put too much of a bend towards the tip end of the rod, and that's where they snap. There's a couple things you can do. Hopefully, the best thing to do is if you have a buddy, have them net the fish for you. But if you're fishing by yourself, one tip you could do is, there's a couple different ways you can do this. You can either bring your arm back, shortening the distance. I also like to keep the rod more parallel to the ground. And then that way, as I come up, there's less bend towards the tip, and you try to put more pressure and emphasis towards the belly and the back, okay, of the rod itself. And then I will try and lead it in like this, okay? Dip in. The other way you could do this, and I've seen guys do this, but I don't personally do it myself, is I will give myself a little bit of slack, all right? And I'll horse the fish up and high, and then right at the last second, when I think the fish is tired enough and it's kind of floundering, I'll let a little bit of slack go. It will cause the fish to have some slack, and I'll scoop up from there. And remember guys, it's just like angling for other types of fish on different rods, putting constant pressure on the fish. But with just a few slight differences, you'll be able to catch fish very soon. Make sure you subscribe to the channel guys, like the video, check out Lucky Tackle Box and our other great sponsors, and until next time guys, catch you guys on the flip side, in tight lines.